I'm going to go. Welcome to the weirdness that is the week of the NBA's in-season tournament. Welcome to Fantasy NBA Today podcast, a sports ethos presentation hosted by yours truly, Aaron Bruski. I don't know if that little outtake will make it to the show. If it did or didn't, you're welcome. And speaking of welcome to this YouTube only episode. We're not live, which we have been live, but if you guys, before we get settled in here, if you guys could do us a huge favor, there's a couple things I'm going to be asking for throughout the show. But if you guys on your favorite pod platform, or if you're watching this on YouTube later today, if you could just go forward and hit the subscribe and thumbs up button, the 5-star reviews, all that stuff helps us out tremendously. And also get into our Discord. Why I'm saying this, and I'll give you guys a couple reminders doing the show. You guys, we're doing a bunch of content and we're going to blast it out to a bunch of different places. And these little small things, they help us build up our platform and help us make the investments into everything that we're doing around here, which is adding more tools. And you're going to hear about a bunch of stuff in the coming weeks, new product releases, not just on the premium membership side, but also on the free side. When you guys do this, and we're also trying to get our brand and our platform out into these new social media companies like Bruski and Threads and places like Twitter. They're great. We're not going anywhere. We love Twitter. But for businesses that are trying to get their product out in front of people, they got some weird things with throttling links and all this stuff. And we just want to get all the good stuff out to as many places as possible. So we're going to be pushing our content out to all these different places. And we are welcoming you to join us on those platforms. So when you get done liking the podcast, subscribing to the podcast, getting thumbs up on the YouTube and subscribing there, head on over to Discord and head on over to Bruski, where you can find us at Ethos Fantasy NBA. Also, that same handle over at Threads. My handle's the same over at Bruski. It's a little bit different at Threads. It's Ethos Bruski. Anyway, we'll give you a couple reminders throughout the show. This stuff really helps us out a lot. And it's going to be important for you guys because we have content that's going to be going to these places that's not going to be going anywhere else as we try to incentivize you guys to get over to these other places. Okay, enough of that. Let's quickly say hi to our sponsor. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen with the largest selection of odds on everything from football to NBA, college basketball, NHL, and UFC. Head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use the promo code BLEAV, BLEAV, for your welcome bonus and your first deposit. BetOnline. The game starts here. We got a huge show today, guys. I'm so fired up. I was preparing for the show last night. I was just realizing that freaking fantasy teams have so many different things going on. There's so much wiggle in the values and the numbers. And I mean, if you're just out there playing buy low, sell high, you could have a field day. In fact, I feel like we have had a field day over the last few weeks with all this buy low, sell high action. We predict it, then it hits. And it's the kind of stuff that doesn't have a lot of risk to it. So it does feel like hopefully some of you guys are getting out there and making some great deals. In fact, tell me about them. Send me a tweet, send me a Bruski, whatever it's called. Send me a Threads thing. I don't know what this stuff's called, but send it to me. I want to hear about this stuff. I want to hear that you guys are winning and you guys are having fun. Today, we're going to go through all 30 teams in the NBA and basically get you set up for the week ahead, which, by the way, is weird. There's like one game for this week for half the teams in the league. And then you got one team with New York that's got 3 games allegedly. If you can crack the code on it, come join us here at Sports Ethos. It's actually hard work to crack the code on the schedule these days, but the other teams, the other half of the league's got 2 games. Not a lot of action this week. It's a little mini vacation of sorts. And, guys are going to be able to get healthy. And, we're going to get some in-season tournament action. So we'll all just sort of sit down, slow down at really the best time that we could do this, which is, the holidays and everybody's running around. It's crazy. People are driving like maniacs. And it's just a good time to kind of have the fantasy world slow down a little bit. And by the way, I wasn't planning on saying this right now, but we are going to be releasing another Bruski 150 here within the next week or so. We're also going to have a huge product release for you guys that will tie to that release. So there will be a lot going on. I'm very glad that the world has stopped spinning so fast right now. And yeah, let's get going here. And yes, Andre, I do love Twitter. You Twitter hater, you. Let's get into tonight's game. We got the Knicks at the Raptors here. We got Karl Towns questionable with the right knee patellar. tendinopathy. More on that in a second. Campaign questionable with a left elbow. Precious Achua is back, and we're seeing a lot of streamer action with both Precious and Miles McBride. And if Campaign plays, expect that to be on the platter as well. I think all that is very, very obvious stuff. Everything with New York is great right now, with the exception of Karl Anthony Towns. And I don't want to throw up warning flags here, too hastily. And I don't want to like wave them around like I just don't care. The fact that his minutes have been managed a little bit and that he's been popping up on the radar with this knee issue, I just think it's noteworthy. And I don't think there's much more beyond that right now, but he's been a top 5 play this season. He entered drafts sort of as a third rounder. I think maybe he fell to the 4th round early on in draft season in like August or something, but really the precipitous climb up draft boards occurred after the trade. And people who got him in the 2nd round have to be thrilled. And then there were folks who were getting him late in the 1st round. And then some people at the end of draft season were taking shots at him at pick 5 and 6. And it felt a little bit much, but it was actually really, really sharp. And so that has been a huge difference in fantasy leagues. Now, the question is Tibbs going to get to him? All these guys have historically worn their bodies down playing for Tibbs, and it usually shows up in playoff time and or the 4th quarter of a 30-point win. But Karl Towns being questionable with this right knee, it's just something for folks to watch. If this thing keeps lingering and then all of a sudden you felt the need to bail, you could probably still get a 1st rounder, and you might even settle for a 2nd rounder and just live to fight another day. Don't go that route just yet, but that's my big take on the New York side of the line. And then Toronto's way more nuanced and way more detailed. You got Kelly Olynyk back. In his first game, he had a very familiar line: 13 points, 3 triples, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, and he was perfect from the field and from the line in just 14 and a half minutes. Total Kelly O. He's going to be playing. I don't know if they've got a ramp up time. Toronto's got 2 games this week, so they're a pretty trendy streaming team. And I think it's, of course, perfect timing to go out and take a flyer on Kelly O. When things are good, he is basically a top 100 guy. He sometimes can grab some top 50 numbers over a stretch. That's not going to be the norm for him. And of course, Toronto has their tanking issues ahead of them, though right now they're playing very hard, not really being very tanky. They have had some injuries, but really this team is playing great basketball for a team that's only got 7, I think, wins. And that's great from the perspective of Kelly possibly having a nice little run here. So don't drop your best don't drop a player with consistent value to go get him. But if you have some dead weight, that's a great grab for right now. Now, what's this going to do to the rest of the rotation? There's not a lot of guys that it's going to elbow out that are definitely in a lot of fantasy leagues. But, the Chris Boucher, Jonathan Mobo question, Ryan Wolstadt of the Toronto Sun had an article the other day where he basically laid out that he thinks that Chris Boucher is the odd man out. They continue to want to develop Jonathan Mobo. Darko Rajakovic basically said in some media availability that Boucher was talked with and that he's understanding that this was going to happen this season. So this feels like it's pretty much news. So in a deeper format, especially if you're playing the the streaming game, Mobo, take a shot here. Maybe he can get his 20 minutes per game. He's been a top 160 guy and just about that, 19.4 minutes per game over the last 3 contests with a combined 2.7 steals and blocks, as well as a 3 per game, which is not what we expect out of him, but he's taking them and he's making them. So maybe you can kind of catch some top 200 value over the next, say, 2 months, and then April and March might be more interesting for him. So not a massive deal, but that's something. Scotty Barnes has been trending upward. He's been a top 8 value in 9 cat leagues over the last 3 games, despite turning it over almost 5 times a game, averaging 22 points, 2.7 triples, 8.7 boards, 10.3 assists, and 1.3 steals and 1.3 blocks per game. So he's a top 75 value a week ago. We told you to buy low. Now he's off to the races. Grady Dick's been back, and he's got 9 3-pointers over the last 2 games back on the floor. He's probably a late round value going forward because things are getting crowded there in Toronto. And then Ochai Agbaji, he's been getting squeezed out of the rotation. The last 3 games for him have been outside of the top 200. And yet the same time, if you keep looking back in time, he's been able to maintain late round value. I think it's going to be rough sledding for him, especially since Emmanuel Quickly's not even back yet. But he will probably be a late round value, and then he'll probably have a nice stretch run. So maybe not now for him, maybe down the road for him. All right, let's get into the recaps. We're going to hit every team. We got Joel Embiid on the marquee today. He's back. Who knows for how long? Who knows what the story is there? I mean, we could talk Joel Embiid for probably 10 minutes, but we won't. He's been a top 75 value in the last 5 games that he's played. His numbers are all over the place, so just throw him out the door. If he can play, he can play. That's pretty much it. There's not a lot to assess or analyze here. Joel Embiid, everybody. Joel Embiid. I swear I can't get it right. I think I heard too many Joel Embiids early in his career, and then everybody figured out it was Joel, and I just missed the train. But I will eventually get there, I promise you. Jared McCain has been falling. The bottom's fallen out for Jared McCain. Top 175 on the season, and it's in a healthy 25.6 minutes per game. Total disaster lately. I will have a little victory party on the sell high recommendations. It's not because I don't like Jared McCain. I just think that the things that are going on in Philly are just too much for him to survive. A couple more injuries and he'll be back into the top 100 land. But I mean, could you move on from Jared McCain? Yeah, I think you could move on from Jared McCain, realizing that all of the planets will need to be in alignment for him to cross the top 100 threshold. And even until then, it just will not be worth your time to have him on the back end of most standard league rosters. Paul George has been mostly top 75 this season. This last week, he climbed into a top 30 position, probably some buy low room there. You know what you're getting into with that. So, just you pick wisely. I would say probably 4th or 5th rounder, and you're probably cooking with gas there. On the other side of the line, Chicago, and I haven't even actually been reading too many box scores here, so my apologies for all of that. Let's see here. Philly and Chicago. Sorry. I don't know why I don't have that box score up right now. Anyway, Chicago, if we asked you who the top 5 play was over the last week in 9 category formats, and you answered Nikola Vucevic, that'd be great. That would be expected. He's had a great season. He's been a top 10 guy. Now, if we asked you who the number 4 player was in 9 cat formats over the last week, and you said it was Ayo Dosunmu, then you might need to call one of those helplines, but that's what he has been. And so that's great. He's been a top 120 guy now on the season. He is outperforming Josh Giddey, who's been just top 160. If you asked me which player I would prefer to have on my rosters, I would tell you that would be Ayo Dosunmu. Now, hang on one second here, because I have a little problem with my my box scores here. And I will get this going here in a quick second, but very strange that my computer just did that. Let's get to the Milwaukee Brooklyn Nets game, where Milwaukee won this thing 118 to 113. So basically now they're a game above 500, beating a lowly Brooklyn Nets team with a lot of players banged up and or out. As the game went, oh my goodness. I'm going to take my computer and throw it off the side of a cliff, folks. Oh, I love it. Taurean Prince didn't score in this one, shattering my hopes and dreams. That's not the lead in this one. Giannis, 34 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks. Normal line for him. Brook Lopez got elbowed out of this one, 3 points, 3 boards. He's been fine lately. Damian Lillard, 15 points, 11 assists. I think the slowdown, it didn't happen so much in the Boston game, but I was worried that would take the rhythm out of his game, and he's now probably in a bit of a downswing. He's been on an upswing. Hopefully he caught that buy low a couple weeks back, but he is probably about to head back down now, so just keep that in mind. Bobby Portis got back on the board with 23 points, 5 boards, 1 assist, 1 steal, 3 blocks. 5 threes for Bobby Portis, 9 of 10 shooting. So it was a big bounce back game for him. And it's been bad for him. He's with this big line, just now a top 100 play this week. So that's how bad it's been for him. It's been top 160 on the season. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to do one little thing here that's going to help us all. It's just going to be to turn my sound down. Okay. I love the on-air challenges that occur in this business. Sometimes you get something really weird. I had to do a radio interview once where my voice was constantly in my ear. I was hearing every single thing I was saying. So it was like talking. I was like, oh my God, I sound stupid. and I'm talking stupidly. And that loop just went for like 20 minutes. It was amazing radio, I swear. Let's get to the Brooklyn Nets side. Dorian Finney-Smith just sort of chugging along, hasn't been good lately. Cameron Johnson has been good lately, 26 points, 9 of 16 shooting, 4 threes, top 40 value, total sell high. If you're not out there selling Cam Johnson high every single week until you get rid of him, you're not doing it right. And yes, he could reach up and have the Cam Johnson season that we always wanted him to have for the last 2 to 3 years. It's totally possible. I just don't think it's good business to actually try to ride that the entire way. Brooklyn has a lot that they can do with a good draft pick. Cam Johnson, brittle, and he doesn't know how to fall. That if you got me some sort of data that said that he learned how to fall, I might actually half my position and still tell you guys to sell high. But just an injury risk in general. Nick Claxton had a good game, 21 and 10 with 3 steals, 2 blocks, 4 assists. I've had moments where I've seen Claxton play well this season, and I've thought maybe this is the turning point. Well, maybe this is the turning point. I don't think that I would be over the moon for Nick Claxton here, but it's been a top 100 week over the last week or so. So that's good. I mean, it's something to build off of, but I'm not convinced that this is the turning point for him. Dennis Schroeder, 34 and 11, 4 threes. He's the one guy that I actually do think you kind of ride through this mess because he's a vet. He's a stabilizing presence. I think Brooklyn's fine putting him on the floor, knowing he's not going to overly influence winning. And the numbers are going to be there. Even when Cam Thomas gets back in the next couple games here, I think Dennis Schroeder is just going to ride to at least top 75 value until it starts to sputter post All-Star break. So if you're planning your sell highs, yeah, he's a sell high, but I'm not as urgently recommending you to sell high as I would with Cam Johnson, because I do think that he could have any number of things happen at any point in time. Day'Ron Sharpe hasn't been getting it done. Some speculation there if he could have some fantasy value. Ben Simmons, 0 points, empty stat line. If anybody ever tells you to pick up Ben Simmons, you just run the other direction. Let's get over to Charlotte at Indiana. And this one sort of quietly happened. Like, Charlotte goes into Indy, they get the win. Like, you would think I would be hearing from all sorts of Indy people that the sky is falling, and it really is falling. They're 10 and 15. You're losing to a beat up Charlotte team that's got nobody with it. I mean, Brandon Miller went 9 of 18 in this game. Usually he's going 9 of 30. 26 points, 6 boards, 5 assists, 1 block, 4 threes for Brandon Miller. A great game there. I am worried about his efficiency if this team ever has mass injuries. But Cody Martin was decent in this one. Hasn't been good enough to hold fantasy value over the last couple of weeks. 14 points, 2 steals, 2 threes in this one. That was actually a high water mark for him the last couple of weeks. So it didn't work out for Cody Martin. Nick Richards, 9 points, 14 boards, no steals or blocks. That's the key thing there. This actually dropped Nick to more of a top 105 value on the season, and it illustrates how important those blocks are for him. So he did come into this game dinged up with an ankle issue. Mark Williams didn't play. They're just bringing him along slowly. So the stage is set for Richards to move into 27 minutes per game all season long. And if he keeps the blocks numbers from completely falling off a cliff, he's got a bad free throw number right now. Those two things might normalize and actually cancel each other out. And you might be looking at top 105 value if things go bad and top 85 value if things go good. If it's 85, that's great because he definitely wasn't drafted for that. If it's 105, also wasn't drafted for that. Probably a win, especially since you probably got him off the waiver wire. If he drops down to 125, 135, it gets a little boring then, and then you will have Mark Williams sort of breathing down his neck. So Nick Richards will probably not be in a great spot at that point in time. But I do think, ankle issue aside, Indy's a little bit of a weird team. I don't want to say that you don't get blocks against Indy, but they're a little bit of a weird team without a lot. They only got one big man, and that big man pops all the time. So maybe it was all jump shots. Who knows? Nick Richards, good with me. Vasily Micic, 18 points, 9 assists, 2 steals, 4 threes. This also hasn't been good enough for him to be a really good fantasy value, top 180 over the last 4 games, getting you 12.5 points, 2.3 triples, and 7.5 assists, and that's it. So if you needed assists, though, he's a guy. And as Doc pointed out on our show the other day, assists are hard to find. So maybe there was a purpose for picking him up. Now, on the Indy side, Ty Halliburton, this game wasn't great. He had 9 points, 8 assists. He did get you 3 blocks, but he didn't get you any threes, and he was pretty much bad. He played 37 minutes. His plus minus was better than his starting teammates, who also played very bad. Pascal Siakam, 3 of 8 shooting, 9 points, 11 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals. Turner, 21 points, 4 fouls, 10 points, a steal, a block, 3 threes. That's great, but he had 1 rebound. That's the problem with Miles Turner in a nutshell. Andrew Nembhard, 10 points, 3 of 5 shooting. He was okay. 4 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal, 2 threes, but who knows? Maybe just cluttering things up. Mathurin, 11 points, 3 boards, 1 steal, 1 3, 34 minutes. That's it. Some of that bad math for Benedict Mathurin starting to show up. A sell high a couple of weeks ago was definitely the move. And now things are bad. I do like Mathurin in the sense that I think he's got a lot of talent. If things work out, a couple guys get hurt, maybe things trend a different direction. In Indy, it's hard to say though. Siakam, I think, is the piece that probably isn't working for them. They need somebody who's a little less ISO, a little less on ball. And it worked, I think, in the playoffs for a little bit there. They got a little lucky. Indy did. But they definitely need to make a change because this isn't working out for them. And I don't see the dynamic changing anytime soon. Ty Halliburton, top 36 on the season. He is a very interesting buy low. It feels like this top 36 is actually a massive win. He had a good stretch where he was doing old Tyrese Halliburton numbers. But again, I think the problems in Indy are just not going away. Let's get to Cleveland at Miami. Evan Mobley rolled an ankle. Hopefully this was more precautionary than anything else as far as him staying out of the game, knowing that there's basically a week off for everybody. And that's the good news here. If he does miss a game, whatever, there's a lot of rest upcoming for he and anybody else in his boat. So Mobley, I'm not so worried that this changes the dynamic. The one thing that might change the dynamic in Cleveland is Max Strus possibly getting back soon. They've enjoyed a nice, perfect, everybody gets enough shots situation in Cleveland, and Strus coming back would maybe complicate that a little bit. Maybe not. As far as the game itself goes, there was not much cooking here. I mean, Garland, 23 points and a full stat line. Donovan Mitchell was down 5 of 16. It basically looked like Cleveland got the Miami Beach flu in this game. Ty Jerome was a little bit more active, 14 points, 4 boards, 6 assists. That's great, but with Strus coming back, I think the party might be ending for Ty Jerome, which is a little bit sad because it was one of the coolest things of the first quarter of the season. On the Miami side, also quiet. Nothing too poppy except for Tyler Hero, 34 points, full stat line for him. He's been at a top 30 level. Bam Adebayo's have been at a top 45 level. He had a 16 point, 13 rebound stat line. Jimmy Butler, 18 points, 5 assists, 2 steals. Very quiet for him, but as long as he's healthy and playing, you're probably okay. Maybe it's a little bit worrisome if you were a Jimmy Butler person in the drafts, as we were, or as I was, that Tyler Hero appears to be the number one. I don't know if I'd be interested to see how that changes in the fourth quarter of a high leverage game. Jimmy Butler, probably still going to be the guy, I would imagine, in that scenario. And you just let Tyler run his stuff all game long. Other than that, Terry Rozier, a little bit of a bounce back effort, 14 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, 1 block, 2 threes. Really bad for him. I think he played through an injury he shouldn't have been playing through early on in the season. It's really impacted the first quarter of his year. Questions about whether Terry Rozier was almost like washed seem to be popping up in the Miami media. And it's not probably that just yet, but if he continues to play through injuries that he shouldn't be playing through, then he might actually have some kind of an event like that. Let's get out of this game and let's get to the annihilation that occurred in Denver. Well, they certainly got mad. They basically they ditched out on Jokic the other night, who is breaking records all over the place, and then they got mad and they said, okay, we'll take it out on the Hawks, and they have a 30-point win, 141-111 in Atlanta. I also think this is a terrible matchup for Atlanta. All of Atlanta's good players can get sort of blanketed by Denver's third and fourth players, and these two teams would never want to, or Atlanta would never want to face Denver in the playoffs. And they're obviously not at that level, but this particular matchup's just so bad for them anyway. Aaron Gordon, slow out of the gates since returning from injury, 6 points, 6 assists, not much else. He's been really bad since returning. It will probably come back to top 100 at some point, but not yet. Porter Jr., 26 points, 1 3, 7 boards. So he's just cooking at a top 60 level. Nikola Jokic, 48 points, 14 boards, 8 assists, 3 steals. I love this pinball machine stuff. It's a great tweet from Keston Paul over here. He said, well, everybody was worried about Wemby breaking fantasy. Nikola Jokic said, hold my horses. I laughed. It was great. You should also follow Keston Paul because he's one of the best analysts in the business. I love him. Christian Brown, 17 points, 2 threes, 8 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. He has been really struggling lately. So this might be a sign that he might have a shot as a top 75 guy with the Denver Nuggets at full strength. I don't think he falls any lower than top 100 going forward, even if they are at full strength. I do recognize the potential for him to fall off. He needs to keep these cash counting stats in the 4 range and above to really hit that top 75 mark. The cash counting stats, of course, are threes, steals, and blocks. He had 5 of them in this game. So he's above the line and he's doing well. Russell Westbrook on a little bit of a run lately, 9 points, 11 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 1 3. Jamal Murray not playing in this game. Jamal Murray has actually stepped up his game lately, top 40 over the last 5 games. So maybe a little buy low potential for him if you've got the stones for it. Nobody on the bench is worth the time. And I do think that Peyton Watson can be dropped. Just 2 points, 1 steal, 2 blocks in 18 minutes. It was a decent little run for him as we expected. And he's one player that I would like to see develop. If he can add another wrinkle to his game, I think he'll get a little bit more stability in fantasy leagues. But until then, he'll just be a replacement level guy. On the Hawks side, you got kind of same as usual stuff going on, except I do think that they have some interesting stuff in places that you wouldn't expect. DeAndre Hunter being a top 75 value in 9-cat formats on the season. He's got that on the season in 27.7 minutes per game. We've seen this out of him in the past, but it kind of felt like he was cooked heading into this season. And, a lot of players with more buzz. You got Jalen Johnson still killing it, top 20 on the season. He didn't play in this one, right shoulder soreness, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. But beyond that, you just got to kind of tip your hat to a guy that did not have a lot of buzz heading into this season. Dyson Daniels had a big stat line, taking advantage of some of the Jalen Johnson absence. That stat line, which was 18, 4, and 6 with 5 steals and a block and 2 threes, that pushed him up over top 40 this season, or probably over the last 8 games. And the dip in his production, it's just top 50 now over the last 11 games. That dip might represent the floor for him. I would say that that's really great news for him. People probably, if you told them at the beginning of the season that he had top 50 potential, they probably wouldn't have believed you, even the biggest Dyson Daniels believer. That said, this looks real. It looks like top 75 might be the floor for him. If you're playing the sell high game, he was top 20 a couple weeks ago. And if top 20, if you decided to hold, for example, instead of considering I doubt you would have considered a top 75, but if you got out on a top 50 guy and maybe a top 50 guy with some risk, you probably feel a little bit bad right now because he's actually been able to turn the ship. It started looking bad when Bogdan Bogdanovic got back. Bogey's been a top 100 guy over the last 2 weeks, so that's not really where he plays. He should be more of a top 75 guy, but if you thought Bogey was going to come back and drop Daniels to top 75, well, the 25 slots there, and then admittedly, there's not a lot of wiggle there, but those 25 slots belong to Dyson right now. The only way that Dyson loses this, aside from him not playing well, but if he's playing at typical Dyson Daniels levels, the only way that he goes from 50 to 75 is if Bogey takes it from his cold, dead hands. And that's not a guarantee to happen. So Daniels, there's so many different ways that he can keep cooking. Other guys could get hurt and he could keep cooking. As long as his efficiencies don't fall off, as long as the counting stats, probably the cash counting stats don't fall, he should be a top 50 guy the rest of the way. So congratulations if you held and you didn't sell for an iffy top 50 guy, which I don't think you guys would have. You guys are smart. Trae Young shooting just 38.5% on the season. That catches my eye. So he's not doing so great. And then both of your centers at top 130 on the season. Let's get out of this game. Let's head over to Phoenix at Orlando. Orlando, of course, just losing Franz Wagner. That's no bueno. And Oblique, that's weird. I'm sure the training staff is breathing a little heavily over there about that. That's obviously not great. Probably a fluke that it hit them twice. Just a brutal turn of events. If you've had, Paolo Banchero, I don't think folks were overly invested in him And folks weren't overly invested in Franz either, but Franz cranked it up to top or the first round. Like you losing a first rounder for X amount of weeks, especially during the time while Paulo's out, that's a really bad beat. And that's unfortunate. I'm going to hit the Phoenix side here before we get into the Orlando side. But Phoenix loses this one 115 to 110. So Orlando's still winning 17-9 for them on the season. Phoenix just a game over 500. So starting to slide a little bit here. 4-7 on the road is pretty noteworthy there. Royce O'Neal, 16 points, 7 boards, 4 threes. Doc and I kind of have a little mini battle right now. He's on Royce O'Neal and I'm on Grayson Allen. Royce has been doing just fine lately and on the season as well. He's top 100 over the last 9 games with 1.2 turnovers for 9 cat formats, where that's really nice. But Grayson Allen actually top 90 over the last 7 games with just a turnover per game in those games. They've been top 50 for Royce over the last week and top 75 for Grayson. So Doc's winning, but I think we're both winning. We're all winning with these two players. And then Grayson actually left this game with an ankle injury, which is a little bit of bummer. He had 13 points, 4 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal, 2 threes. Perfect from the field and perfect from the foul line. So that shooting bump that we were talking about 2 weeks ago, which was the signal that Grayson Allen was probably going to get it going, that's happening. We'll keep an eye out for the news with this ankle thing, but I'm thinking, you got a week of very low games and that's going to be good for him to get healthy. So I had a choice in a lot of leagues that we have fab bids on Sundays was, do I get rid of Grayson Allen? I mean, it's not been great for him on the season. And I said, no, the shooting numbers are pointing the right direction. Yes, there's an ankle injury, but there's about a week for things to chill out. So I decided, hey, let's just not go there. Elsewhere for the Suns, Tyus Jones is still cooking, 21.6 assists, 5 threes. It's been really good for him. Top 40 over the last 9 games, 1 turnover per game in that span, really picking up the slack with Kevin Durant out. Kevin Durant is basically really, really close. I don't know if he'll play in the next one or the one after that, left ankle. So that's great news there. Yusuf Nurkic also close, but I kind of think he's going to be banged up all season. Mason Plumlee, 7.6 boards, 1 steal, 4 blocks. It's been pretty bad for Plumlee, but this one was okay. He's more of a desperation play. At least that at some point in time, Mason Plumlee can reach to the stars and have a good line. It's about 1 out of every 5 contests. Bradley Beal, 18 points. Not a great line. 1 steal, 2 blocks, 1 3. Pretty quiet, efficient, 8 of 12. For him, it's actually been a little bit of a dip lately, but, we're really kind of splitting hairs with that stuff. As long as one of the big 3 is out, the other 2 are going to cook. I just don't think Bradley Beal, the durability issues aren't going away. We've already seen them this season. I'm not too excited about Bradley Beal this year. Let's get to the Orlando side, where it's really exciting to watch Goga Bitadze get loose here. And I almost wonder if we've witnessed a changing of the guard here with Goga taking over for Wendell Carter Jr. I know Wendell Carter Jr.'s got the contract, but Goga's been playing well. He had 21 points, 16 boards, 4 assists. He didn't have a steal or block in this one, which is a bummer, but it made it a super line. But that's okay. I'll take the 21 and 16 with him looking great all game long. He's been playing next to Wendell Carter Jr., who had just 21 minutes, 6 points, 5 boards, 1 steal. These Wendell Carter minutes have been very benign, and he's played less than Goga, and he's coming off of the foot injury. And it just kind of feels to me like he's damaged goods at this point. And yeah, he's got the deal, but I think once you've got the deal, if you're not continuing to earn the deal and you're not a big name marquee guy, it's not a massive deal, right? And Goga is going to contribute to winning. And this team is all about winning right now. Again, 17-9, starting to emerge as one of the top teams in the East. And what they want to do in Orlando is jump up into the top tier of conversation and become a destination where a key free agent might want to plug into this thing. And they actually can make a significant run. And I can't believe I'm even saying that out loud for an Orlando Magic team that just seemed to be mired in mediocrity. But they've got a real shot here. So I don't think they want to mess around with like, hey, Wendell Carter's our guy. He's got the big contract. We're going to play him over everybody and anything. Goga Bitadze, if he keeps playing this way, I think he will take over. This is hilarious. My dog's barking. I'm telling you, the production value of this show is off the roof. I had the baby monitor last night. My kiddo kept me up all night last night. A little bit of a flu action in the house, but we just keep going on over here. Goga, 21 and 16. He's been a top 19 player on the season. And Wendell Carter Jr., just a top 150 player on the season. Between the two, Goga's the clear player to have rostered on your team. He's actually been the second best Orlando Magic player over the last 2 weeks with top 50 value over that span, 3 combined steals and blocks to go with great percentages, basically a double-double per game. I just think that this one's easy for Orlando. I'm not convinced that they're going to kick Goga out of the rotation when all 3 players are healthy, when Paolo gets back, when Franz gets back, and that's when things get crowded. Jonathan Isaac may be healthy at the time. Like, do they send Goga to the sideline after this run? I don't think so. So I'm pretty pro Goga, if you hadn't noticed. Now, the question of what's going to happen in here in the short term, Anthony Black in this game, he had a stat line that might kind of catch your eye, but I don't think it's winning me over. 8 points, 3 boards, 2 assists, but he got you a steal and 2 blocks, 26 minutes. Can Anthony Black have some kind of value for you over the next week or so? I don't know, but he's been a top 250 guy over with that kind of a line. If that's the line that he's producing, that's a top 250 kind of a line for you. So I think if the things he does well match up with your needs, it's an emergency level play. Cole Anthony, 29 minutes, 14 points, 2 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 2 threes. I'd much rather have Cole Anthony right now just because he hasn't been playing and they can kind of say to him, hey, here's your minute. Here's your window. Maybe we can even generate some trade value for you. Pardon me. So I would be actually looking at Cole Anthony. And as far as the production that you could expect in a best case scenario, we've actually seen Cole Anthony go top 75 for extended periods of time in the past. They need his scoring right now in Orlando. It's not a lot of scorers on this roster. Jalen Suggs picking up the slack, 26 points, 8 of 18, 4 of 10 from 3. Watch for the efficiency to slide there. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope on a milk carton, 8 points, 3 steals, 3 of 6 shooting, 2 of 5 from 3. Kentavious should be a candidate to pick up the slack, but it's just not happening there. Cole Anthony, though, gives you the dribble drive penetration that they sorely need on this team one way or another, that they've been getting out of Wagner sort of in spades. But now Cole Anthony, big window here. I'd consider him a top 100 play in 8 cat formats for the next week or 2, but not much longer after that, because Paolo will be back pretty soon. And when that happens, they won't need that scoring anymore. Let's get out of this game, which we spent a little bit of time on. Let's get to Memphis at Washington. So Memphis, of course, as we say every time we talk about them, or at least I do, they have so many fantasy things going on with this squad. But Ja Morant is questionable right now. He's been dealing with back soreness. He didn't play in this one. Desmond Bane didn't play in this last one with his toe issue. That takes the steam out of the Desmond Bane is getting healthy, and he's, the buy low window is actually going to pay off for folks. One of the most intriguing buy lows on the board, just because second, third round draft pick, I think probably more toward third round this season. But, some people were still reaching for the sky for Desmond Bane. Talent's there. But anytime, with a player that's got injury history like him, it's not working right now. So Desmond Bane, I think it makes a lot of sense if you're Memphis to let both of these guys rest, but Desmond Bane in particular. So keep an eye out for that. So Scottie Pippen Jr., 14 and 12, 2 steals, showing you what he's capable of. He did that in 22 minutes. And again, they did this against a Washington squad that gave up in this game. They lost by 28 points. They have 3 wins on the season. So take all of this with a little bit of salt. But Scottie Pippen Jr., obviously, we know what he can do when he's getting minutes. I think I got the reason why Scottie wasn't playing the couple games before. I watched him against the Kings, and he was chucking, and he wasn't hitting. So I think he got the quick hook. But Scottie Pippen Jr., a lot of love for him. And I do think at some point in time, very soon perhaps, he will go back to being a top 100, 125 play. And then there will be some upside if Memphis gets hit by the injury bug again. Not sure that that's going to happen. Jaren Jackson Jr. continues to roll, 21 points, 4 blocks, 3 threes, 17 minutes. So I'm not going to pick on the 4 rebounds here. Brandon Clark, 12 points, 7 boards, 2 steals. He's been about a top 200 guy, so just know that if you need a big man. And by the way, he actually doesn't look very mobile, so I don't think it's, Brandon Clark of old. Marcus Smart, 13 points, 3 threes, 1 steal, 21 minutes. He's been a top 180 guy on the season, a 250 guy, Marcus Smart, over the last 4 games. So it looked like he might be making a little bit of a move, but it hasn't been that good. Santi Aldama, it has been great for Santi Aldama. He's just a freaking amazing pickup this year. Top 65 this season in his 27 minutes per game. No slowdown in sight. 19.7 boards, 5 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks, 3 threes. Thank you very much. Jake LaRavia, 9 points, 3 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 3. One of the best plus minus guys on the Memphis Grizzlies. And I think it's been a little iffy for him. So I'm not going to go over the moon for him. It's been top 225 for him over the last 4 games, top 150 for my guy Jay Huff. So Jay Huff's actually been better. And so I'm like picking between kids with this stuff. Jay Huff, 17 points, 3 boards, 3 threes, 6 of 14 shooting, 11 3-point attempts. I think Jay Huff is a solution for the Sacramento Kings that they could, just throw a little bit of their weight around. I don't know what it would take to get a guy like Jay Huff. I don't know if you can even make trades in the NBA anymore. But Jay Huff, certainly worth a look. I mean, you're not going to get inside of the top 150 value, I think, until something else happens. Like you're going to need an injury to Jaren Jackson or an injury to Santi Aldama or something to occur. But this guy's he's ready to go. He's not going to win any awards, but he's mobile. He's tall. He gets into the mix. He tries to block shots. He's got a neon green light from deep, and he's useful. And the rebounding's not there because I think he's challenging probably too many shots probably, and he's a little bit light. So the rebounding's not there. But I also think he's conceding rebounds to teammates as well. So who knows? In a good situation, Jay Huff playing 25, 27 minutes a game will be a top 75 guy. So I like the low high here, especially in deeper formats. If you can get top 175 value to play in your leagues, I love this low high action here. What else we got in Memphis? I could talk about these guys all day, but I shan't. Let's move on to New Orleans at San Antonio. This one was a really fun one to watch. I mean, you had Wemby doing weird Wemby stuff. He had this crazy block and then runs down the court and takes a running one-footed 3 just because he can. Thank you, Wemby, for being yourself. Let's get to that New Orleans side, though, real quick. A lot of fun stuff going on over there. Let's start with Trey Murphy, 25 points, 6 boards, 5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 4 threes, 8 of 16 shooting, 5 of 5 free throws. It sure looked like he was the number one on this team. It sure looked like DeJounte was deferring to him. I mean, you wouldn't know it by the box score, 18.6 of 20 shooting. So 20 shots for DeJounte Murray, 6 boards, 11 assists, 2 blocks, 1 3, 5 of 5 from the foul line. So the DeJounte Murray show is coming. He's going to be an early round guy. I just thought it was interesting that Murphy was the guy that they really looked at. Somebody needed to get free for a shot. It was Murphy, not Murray. But I would definitely take Murray over Murphy. But we're looking at top 50 for Murphy the rest of the way. So if you held out, if you just waited for Murphy, yes, there's some injury risk there. He's got a sweet stat set. I think this team is shaping up for fantasy gold. Herbert Jones, 12 points, 2 steals, 1 block, 1 3. Quiet night for him, but 38 minutes. Yves Missi, 18 and 14 with a steal and 2 blocks. Yes, please. The only thing that can happen is that Zion returns and screws everything up. 5 and 20, New Orleans Pelicans. Do you want to get out of the Zion Williamson business? I know we do. Do you, New Orleans? Can you? Can you trade the guy? I think you should. See what you could get. I'm sure there's a team out there that would love themselves some Zion. And you know what? If you lose that deal because Zion turns around and goes off, I would actually get behind it because it's the correct move right now. And let this kind of trio of long wings, let them kind of, spread their wings and find their offensive games, and then just bring in some other players that are better than them. And let these guys, kind of sit back into more complementary roles. You've got a good foundation for the back end of your, say, top 4 to 6 players on this team. If you could teach these defensive-minded studs how to play a little bit of offense and then bring some guys that can truly cook in, you might be working with something in New Orleans. In the meantime, you can wait until Brandon Ingram and Zion get back and they can kind of mess everything up for this box score. CJ McCollum, 19 points, 4 boards, 5 assists. That's good news for him. It hasn't been good for him, but he'll get things straightened out. He'll be a top 75 guy if this stays the way that it looks right now. Brandon Boston, 17 points, 7 of 12 shooting, 3 boards, 1 assist, 1 steal. The devil's in the details with him. If he can keep those ancillary numbers, the scoring will be good. If he can keep the efficiency good, pick up some threes, pick up some steals, get a little here, get a little there. He can be a late round guy in this configuration with this team. On the San Antonio side, a little quiet for my guy, Julian Champagnie, but he's been a top 100 guy this season. I don't care. 12 and 6, 1 block, 2 threes. Just cruising. Harrison Barnes, 16 points, 3 assists, 1 steal, 3 threes. That's good enough for him. You could keep rolling him out there while he's, relevant. Wembanyama, 25 and 10 with 3 blocks, 3 threes. A little quiet for him. And he had a little issue with his back in the game. That's probably the big news here. He played through it. And this week will give him a week of rest. Hopefully they don't pin another game to that somewhere, some way. But I think they'll just kind of let it roll. Stephon Castle, 22 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, 1 steal, 2 threes. I think people are excited about him. And even the shooting line in this one was good. 8 of 15 from the field, 4 of 5 from the free throw line. That's been the problem for him. He's outside of the top 250 this season, despite 27 minutes per game. He's got 38.6% shooting from the field and 73.8% from the foul line, just 1.3 combined defensive stats. So that's the problem. Those are the problems in a nutshell. If he can somehow work things out, and theoretically, you would think with Chris Paul and Wembanyama that he could actually, get some better looks. But he gets a lot of grenades, and he takes a lot of tough shots, and that's a mark of a good player. So there's a way through this for him, but just by and large, unless you're definitely punting percentages and definitely punting defense, there are problems with his stat set. Zach Collins left this game after a tough fall. He played just 3 minutes, and Charles Bassey looks good. Bassey went for 16 and 11 with 4 blocks in this game. He was only 4 of 7 from the foul line. That foul line has been bad for him this season. But I took a flyer on him in a couple spots. Collins, just something doesn't seem to be clicking there right now, whether it's injuries, the way he approaches the game, or just simple lack of production. And I think that it's possible, I don't want to say it's probable, but it's possible that Bassey might actually earn this job. And if he can be productive in small minutes, that would obviously be the thing. Now, Bassey, I don't think right now there's a case for him to be a late round guy the rest of the season. But if he has a couple more of these a couple big block games and a couple big rebound games, and he's very active offensively, he might have something there. Vassell, 28 minutes, 7 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, 1 block. It hasn't been bad for him. Top 85 in 9 games this season in just 24 minutes per game. Good percentages. So if you're asking a question, is Devin Vassell doing well after really a horrific start? Folks early in draft season taking a late mid-round pick for him, and then finding out you've got the bad news with the foot injury. He's been in and out, a little bit of rest, coming off the bench. Actually, this is not bad for Devin Vassell. So that's nice. I think we're all kind of rooting for Devin Vassell to do well. It's tough seeing young players get hit with big injuries early in their career. Let's get to Minnesota at Golden State. This one was fun because Anthony Edwards went absolutely ham at the end of the game that they just played. I don't know if there was a game in between or not, but they were just in Oakland. Anthony Edwards screaming at a crowd that was silenced. And there was one of those lip reader accounts that basically had the back and forth between him and Steph. And I thought at the time he was screaming, I was like, yeah, like you're going to piss this Warriors squad off, and somebody should be betting the Warriors blind the next game, because they're going to come back and say, not our house, not this time. And that's what happened in this game, though. You didn't know quite which way it was going to go until the end when it finally tilted to Golden State. But it was an entertaining one. And at the end, you got a Jonathan Kuminga dunk based on some Steph action. And that sealed the deal. Draymond Green hit the night pose. And Golden State wins 114-106. Let's look at the Minnesota side first. You did get 37 minutes of Julius Randle, and you got yourself a loss. Correlation? I don't know. Probably 14 and 11 for Randle, 2 blocks, 2 threes. I think this team's box score, and I've said it 5 million times, you got to even hear me to say this again, but until Julius Randle gets dealt with, via trade, Minnesota is just going to be unhealthy in the box score and in the win-loss column. Great trade, guys. Mike Conley, a little bit healthy-ish in this game, 12 points, 3 assists, 1 steal, 3 threes, 25 minutes. I think this is actually a good outcome for Mike Conley. If Mike Conley can survive this and still be a late round guy, that will be a win this season. I think he will do that. I would much rather see them do what they've done in past seasons, which is make Mike Conley the bellwether for this squad. But we'll see how that goes. Anthony Edwards, 27 points, 5 boards, 6 assists, 1 steal, 5 threes, 10 of 19 shooting. Decent enough line, but not good enough this season. Still just hanging around the top 20, not where he was drafted in a lot of situations. Rudy Gobert, 3 blocks, 9 boards, 4 points. Not worth talking about. Jaden McDaniels, 9 points, 4 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 3. So it's been decent for him lately. Late round guy. Hopefully he can keep it going. Dante DiVincenzo did not get any love going back home. 8 points, 1 board, 2 assists, 1 steal. I want to know what Chris Finch is thinking here, because even a bad Dante DiVincenzo deserves minutes many times. And I think you just kind of got to find a way. Maybe you don't play Julius Randle 37 minutes, but what do I know? Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 19 points in this one. He takes so many bad shots for a guy that really shouldn't have a high volume of shots, but he had the 19 points in this one. Just 1 board, 1 assist, 1 block, 4 threes. Obviously, defensively, he brings a lot to the table. They should have a good defense, this squad, with the players that they have on this squad. And they do, but it's mired. Golden State, you had Steph, 30 points, 8 assists, 1 steal, 5 threes. That's great. Obviously, he's having a pretty good season. Kuminga, 20 points in his start, 7 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks. They started Dre next to him, and it feels like now Dre understands he's going to come off the bench with Kuminga starting, and that whole thing was very interesting because I'm sure they went to Dre and said, hey, we're making a choice, and you're going to the bench, and you could take that and like it. And he said, I don't like it, and I'll talk openly about it. So they, Green's like, well, Kuminga's apparently the future, and I believe in him. And that part I don't know if I believe in, but I don't know if I believe that Dre believes that. And I don't know if I believe that Kuminga is the future, just to clarify all of that. But they're going to play Green in small lineups. In fact, there was a story that came out in The Athletic that the analytics team came out and said this lineup will be really good. And then it was, and it does make sense that you can play Draymond Green at the 5 and Kuminga at the 4. I mean, no breaking news there. You bring Gary Payton in. He had 27 minutes in this game. And of course, you bring Gary Payton in when you've got Anthony Edwards on the other side. This seemed to be easy. I don't know if you need an analytics team for it, but hey, the numbers work. So great. 8 points, 5 boards, 2 steals, 2 blocks for Gary Payton. I wish he could play 27 minutes per game. He's one of my favorite players of the last 5 years or so. At one point in time, he was the best defensive player in the league. Great story. Gary Payton, a big Northern California guy, actually played against his little brother once. That family's just hilarious and all good stuff. But he's just not going to stay healthy. Buddy Hield, for myself, was a bigger story here. 27 points, 7 threes, 4 boards, 2 assists, 3 steals. Now Hield, he started looking out of shape to me. And in this last game, maybe not so much. So I don't know if he was tired, if he was dealing with an injury, if he was just kind of down on himself. In this game, he was not down on himself, and he had a couple big shots. And I think maybe they might figure out, hopefully soon, that this team is better with Buddy Hield doing some stupid stuff from time to time, but making a ton of shots and making life easier for guys like Steph Curry. And when you have shooting problems, because Kuminga's not a natural shooter, Draymond Green's not a natural shooter, Gary Payton's not a natural shooter, you got to put in Buddy Hield. And he was a plus 17 in this game, led the Warriors in plus minus. And oh, by the way, in the first couple of weeks of the season, he was like a top 40 guy. Now, I've been out here telling you guys to buy low on Buddy Hield to the point that I was like dying blue in the face. He, this one big line isn't changing the fact that the last couple weeks for him haven't been great, but top 115 on the season. And that's after taking on a 3-week top 250 swoon. So I think Buddy Hield, as it always is the case, is basically a top 75 guy if he's a 27-minute guy for a team that's not ignoring him, which they kind of never do. So Buddy Hield has that potential as long as he becomes, quote, the guy, if they settle on Buddy Hield being the guy. And my guess is he'll be the guy for maybe 2/3 of the season the rest of the way. And they'll go away from him a little bit, but they'll come back. And overall, it will be pretty good. But that's great. I mean, I think you probably can find him on the waiver wire right now. I think people don't think Buddy Hield is a guarantee to do this every night. I think Buddy Hield's being treated like a late rounder out there. I would throw a late round trade across the board. If Buddy Hield has a tepid game in the next one, throw a late round deal to his GM and then reap the benefits. Nobody else other than Brandon Pajemski's 6 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, and 2 threes with nothing else is worth a mention on this Golden State side. And I don't think it's happening for Pajemski this season. I think he is the odd man out. I don't think he's keeping up with his teammates. I think they're better than him, and I think he knows it and they know it, and that's unfortunate because they hyped the hell out of this kid, and he probably didn't deserve that. But, so it goes as an organization is trying to make its way under new leadership. Let's get to Houston and the Clippers. You got Tari Eason, still questionable with a concussion. Fred Van Vliet did not play in the last one. That left things wide open for my guy, Amin Thompson. And he walked through the door, 22 points, 8 boards, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 1 3. That's great. Jabari Smith had a good one, 13 points, 12 boards, 2 assists, 1 block, 2 threes. Şengün, a little bit of a slide lately, top 150 over the last, say, 4 games. 11 points, 10 boards, 6 assists for him. Jalen Green, the pendulum swings, 31 points, 4 boards, 1 steal, 5 threes, 8 of 8 from the foul line. Jalen Green not doing great this season in category leagues. Just top 130 on the season. Jabari, top 130 on the season. And Amin Thompson, top 130 on the season. Now, it's been a brutal stretch for Amin Thompson, but these top 40 lines are just sitting there. And if he doesn't finish inside the top 100, it would be a surprise. If he doesn't finish within the top 75, I think it will be kind of a surprise. And I do think that if one little pin gets pulled from this team, i.e., Fred Van Vliet's knee, which isn't great, takes a dip, I mean, you are really hanging on to fantasy gold. So there is no drop discussion surrounding Amin Thompson. I think it's just a constant buy discussion surrounding him until the thing actually explodes, which it will. Nothing else on this team is really catching my eye. Reed Shepherd's getting minutes, but he's not doing anything with them. And then on the Clippers side, James Harden, he was out. So Norm Powell had run of the yard, but it didn't really work out for him. 17 points, 5 of 18 shooting, 4 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals. He'll be fine. Norm's been about a mid-round guy this season. And, you can kind of just hang your hat on that with the way things have broken here. There's not a Kawhi Leonard sighting in the early weeks of the season. Now, if that happens, and when I guess I should say it's happening, it feels like it's going to happen. It doesn't feel like Kawhi is not going to play this season. When that happens, I think Powell goes outside of the top 100. But again, in a moment's notice, or even on a game-to-game basis, back-to-backs, et cetera, Powell's going to be top 50 in those games. So a top 75 finish for Norman Powell is where the smart money sits. Chris Dunn had 5 steals in this game, but it hasn't really been working out for him lately. He's been more of a top 200 guy, so plan accordingly. Kevin Porter Jr. was called upon, 19.6 assists, 2 steals, 2 threes, 37 minutes. He can do it if he gets the minutes. He won't get the minutes, and the inefficiency will kill the value there. So there's not a lot cooking for Kevin Porter Jr. We had a Bones Highland sighting, 22 points, 4 assists, 1 steal, 5 threes. You're not buying into that because James Harden will be back at a point in time soon. Vica Zubac, 21 and 12, 2 blocks. He's probably at a dip right now, so consider a buy. Maybe not after this game. Wait till he cools off a little bit. He's been about a top 100 guy lately, and maybe even a little bit lower, like a top 125 guy, because he started off great. He's just top 100 on the season right now. Derek Jones has been dealing with a hamstring. Amir Coffey's been dealing with a shoulder injury. So you got 2 cogs. They're out. They don't have a ton of production, but that's minutes that could go to these other guys. So if you're looking for streaming and such, keep an eye on them. That said, the break might allow these guys to heal up. Hey, before I talk about the Sacramento Kings, if you guys like what you're watching, you guys like what you're listening to, go to your favorite pod platform, subscribe, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Go on over to Blue Sky. That's really what we're noticing with Blue Sky, is that they're offering us all sorts of tools to help kind of promote this business. And they're offering us ways and pathways to deliver those tools to you guys. Looking at some of the tech stuff that they got going on, we're pretty excited about what they have to offer. So head on over to Ethos Fantasy NBA. Check that out. Also, keep in mind that we're going to be putting out content to all these different platforms that's a little unique for each platform. So if you can get to all these different places, set up an account with Blue Sky. It takes like 10 seconds. Follow us at Ethos Fantasy NBA. Go over to Thread, same thing, Ethos Fantasy NBA. We're going to be doing a little bit in each place. And each time you guys do that, just know that it's helping us put more tools together. And in the coming weeks, we're going to be releasing some new tools that you guys are going to love. I can't wait to tell you about them. I won't right now. Look for that as we get to the in-season tournament. And right around that time, I will be releasing another Bruski 150. I was working on it just yesterday. I absolutely love this. The tools, everything that we've got going, just like all of the intel that's pointing to this, like it's the best in-season ranks situation that you could ever want. And it's the culmination of an effort of the last 10 years to get it to be able to be done this particular way. So I'm so excited to release the in-season B150. We'll do another one at the All-Star break. But it's a heavy lift, guys. This is not just like putting a bunch of people's names on a list and doing it. We're making sure this thing actually would hold weight as if it was the B150. Now, obviously, we can't take 400 hours of research and just stick it into that thing. That's too many hours and not enough time in the week. But with everything that we've done to leverage tools and technology and be able to bring this stuff together quickly, I think you guys are going to like that product. Let's get back to the action. We got Utah at Sacramento. It was a blowout, so there's not too much from the game itself to talk about. I mean, yes, there's stats and stuff, but like bigger picture, Utah's been actually kind of interesting because, I mean, John Collins is having a great start to the season, but actually Walker Kessler, 8 points, 14 boards, 4 blocks in this blowout loss, a 44-point blowout loss. He actually just passed John Collins. So he's the most valuable Utah Jazz player in fantasy leagues. So the post-hype season is real. Lauri Markkanen just top 90, and he's top 90 in 9-cat leagues with 1.4 turnovers per game. So he's really, I mean, in an 8-cat format, he's outside of the top 100. That's crazy. And these are per game numbers. So it's been really bad for Lauri Markkanen, but it's been really good for John Collins, 19 and 7, 3 assists, 1 block, 5 threes, 5 threes, 4 of 4 from the foul line. Really good for John Collins, and he looks very active out there. And it looks like all things are pointing toward John Collins. You go get yours. Lauri, you chill because we're trying to lose this year. Walker Kessler, you go get yours because we want to trade you. Colin Sexton, who knows what you're up to? 15 points, 0 assists, 2 rebounds, 3 threes, 23 minutes in this one. And of course, Keontae, go take whatever shot you want. He actually hit 8 of 14 shots in this game, of course, in a game that doesn't matter. 25 points, 5 boards, 6 assists, 4 steals for him. This is the line to go market Keontae George with. Go take this line and sell high because it's going to be bad all season long unless you're punting multiple categories and especially field goal percentage. Maybe it comes together for this guy, but it's not going to be easy on this particular team. Nobody on the bench right now for Utah is worth mentioning. I just think that the fact that they are potent with guys like Collins and Kessler that were basically kind of throwaways. I think Kessler got momentum early in draft season, but like throwaway players in a sense, and really dominating fantasy leagues right now. On the Kings side, this team really, really needed to win, and they really needed to like kind of deal with some narratives that were going on. The narrative about DeMar DeRozan sucking up the oxygen in the offense, that was not something they wanted to keep listening to. Of course, a win over the Jazz isn't changing things, but they had a good game. And they won by a lot, obviously. 19 points, 12 boards, 6 assists for Sabonis. Now, I did notice they ran a lot of motion with Sabonis, and that's something that this offense absolutely needs. So that's good, and they'll probably push into that direction. But the question will be, will DeMar DeRozan give up the shots? It's really all we're watching for here. Fox, 21 points, 9 assists. Fairly quiet game. It's a blowout, so we don't care. Malik Monk, 16 points, 2 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal. 2 threes, 27 minutes. Things are going well. He's getting starting minutes. He's making shots. I think overall, as this team faces adversity and they realize that you can't stick all your offense on the floor with a starting unit, I think it might get bad for Monk down the road. Now, they could get an injury. Monk could just stay cruising in the starting lineup. He could continue to get starters minutes. So I don't want to completely poo-poo the idea that Monk could be a top 50 guy going forward, but it's much more likely that he's top 75 or maybe even top 100 if the Kings are kind of playing at full strength here, especially if they stagger things. And when you say stagger things, that means Keon Ellis, who is absolutely outstanding in his 16 minutes. I mean, just like jumping off the screen, how good he is on defense. 5 points, 5 assists, 3 steals, 1 3. Everything he did in this game was great. As it was for the entire team. Kevin Huerter got loose, 26 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 6 threes. There are a lot of people in the front office that want that guy to do well. So as long as he's not terrible, he has the potential to be a top 125 guy in fantasy league. So I do think probably got picked up after this line in a bunch of formats. The baseline for him should be top 125, 150 going forward. That makes him worth rostering in a large majority of standard league formats. Last thing on this team, Keegan Murray, quiet in the blowout, so don't hold that against him. 1 steal, 2 blocks, 1 3, 7 points. He's a massive buy low. He looked confident shooting the ball in this game. And if Sabonis is given the keys and Keegan Murray's shooting rhythm threes, here we go rhyming, Keegan Murray is going to go off. And you guys are going to love the fact that you paid a late round pick to get Keegan Murray. So just go do it. All right, let's move into Portland at LA. I know we're moving a little slowly here. We got a few more games to go. We'll try to speed it up a little bit. Portland at LA. We got, we're going to watch for Robert Williams as we go forward here. This game, LA is really struggling these days. And that's, I guess, interesting for people that, are watching the LeBron stuff and maybe not much more. But the Portland in this game, they kept it a game. They lose 98 to 107. The starting lineup is a little bit boring right now. Ayton did go for 14 and 19 with a steal and a block, 35 minutes there. He's going to be a top 100 guy. Jeremy Grant, deadline, 1 of 12 shooting. He's up and down. He's all around. He's going to be a top 100 to 125 guy going forward. Given the fact that there's going to be tanking all over the place, maybe be a trade guy. It's just so boring. Tamani Kamara, good defender, just outside of the top 150 fantasy value-wise, as a guy that plays a lot for this team. Simons, 14 and 4, 1 block, 5 of 13 shooting. Boring. Shaden Sharp, 19 points, 6 boards, 3 assists. I think he dunked one where his head was above the box. Boring. Late round guy. Scoot Henderson back. Boring. 13 points, 2 boards, 1 steal. This box score read is brought to you by Mike Brown, who repeated himself 23 times in the postgame. Boring. I can't do it. Denny Abdia, not boring. 13 points, 4 boards, 2 assists. Boring in this game. 2 threes, 23 minutes. But he's actually been kind of a top 75 guy or top 100 guy. And I'm okay with Denny right now. I want to see Robert Williams get back. I want to see Donovan Clingan get back. Clingan maybe on the other side of this in-season tournament. Williams, it wouldn't shock me if he didn't come back to the other side of the in-season tournament as well. But this team just so boring. On the Lakers side, LeBron didn't play. It looked like it went right down to the deadline for this decision. Anthony Davis, obviously going to reap the benefits there. 30 and 11 with a full line, 5 blocks. Big line, actually. Anthony Davis, top 3 player in fantasy leagues right now. Rui went off, 23 points, 4 steals, 1 block, 3 threes. He's actually been top 80. Yeah, top 80 on the season. Yeah, I think top 80 on the season in 9-cat. Now, 0.6 turnovers in that format. But, these big games, I think it's been hard to capitalize upon. A bunch of them happened early. Then he kind of faded, and I think people left him on the wire. Now he's back to producing, and especially with LeBron out. So it's been kind of hard to capture this value. I'd call him a late-round guy at best. Dalton Connect, the bottom is just falling out for him. 6 points, 8 boards, 1 steal. If you don't have the connectors involved, if you don't have LeBron, you don't have Austin Reeves out there, I think it gets tough for a guy like Dalton Connect to navigate even in a game against Portland. I would not call Connect more than a late-round guy going forward. I would call Austin Reeves a buy low, 44% from the field, 77.4% from the foul line, obviously missing time due to that big fall. He's about 5 to 10 points in shooting categories behind his normal pace. So this is a buy the book, buy low on Austin Reeves, who's easily a mid-round value when on the floor when things are normal and can crank it up a little bit higher if you start to see injuries to guys like LeBron or AD. And in case you didn't know, neither of those guys are spring chickens over there. Let's see. Dar had a good line. D'Angelo Russell, 28 points, 14 assists. Maybe the D'Angelo Russell marketing movement might start, and you might see a good little run out of him before they try to see who will take him off of their hands. Let's get to some of the Saturday action. We had Oklahoma City at New Orleans. We had Alex Caruso show up a little bit. He's been top 75 over the last 2 games. That's been good for him. We had Cason Wallace has been pretty good. He's been a top 105 value on the season. Of course, that's coming on 1.8 steals per game, 26.3 minutes per game this season. I don't think this is helping people. There's just too much value in one category and not enough value elsewhere. And it's not going to be any easier as this team gets healthier. Top 60 so far for Isaiah Hartenstein. And then the number 4 and 6 players this season in fantasy leagues are Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams. So that's great. Detroit played New York over the weekend, and really nobody's doing well in fantasy leagues for Detroit. And what I did want to mention, though, is that at least lately, Tobias Harris, Cade Cunningham, and Malik Beasley have been doing well. Beasley inside the top 100 over the last three games, and then Tobias and Cade inside the top 20 over the last three games. It doesn't look good for them anywhere. Detroit, like Jalen Duren, not good. I had no confidence in Isaiah Stewart heading into the season, and then he started playing decently enough to be a late round value worth mentioning. He was better than Jalen Duren, so that was also worth mentioning. And then he started falling off. So there's nothing there. Just a tough fantasy situation. Jaden Ivey getting a lot of counting stats, but not shooting the ball well. So it's just not really showing up for these guys in the box score just yet. But I like this team. We'll see. We'll see. I might have a bet on them to win some games this year. Maybe that's why I'm watching them. Dallas, over the weekend, Luka's been on a tear. He's actually pushed his way up to top 7 on a per game basis in 9-cat formats. Kyrie's at number 13. PJ Washington, top 60 on the season. Started falling back to top 115 over the last week. And then Gafford, top 85. Lively, top 110. Klay Thompson, outside of the top 150, just top 180. And Najee Marshall, just cruising outside of the top 150. So a very boring fantasy team, but at least some of the big guys, Luka, getting back on track. And I would say with PJ Washington that you do have a big sell high window right now, and it should normalize and be a little bit more quiet as we go on through the rest of the year. Like the player, it's just tough to play with two big fantasy engines, Luka and Kyrie. And then in Boston, you got Kristaps Porzingis running at a top 20 level over the last 5 games he's played this season, so no surprises there. Drew Holiday has actually been on a nice little push, top 40 over the last 2 games. Took 17 3-pointers the other night. That's amazing. Just top 125 on the season, and I don't think that's changing too much. Peyton Pritchard, top 75 over the last 4 games, top 60 on the season, so he keeps it going. He's going to be the guy that picks up the slack as they rest one player at a time all season long. Derek White, top 20 on the season. Jason Tatum, top 10 on the season, but a little bit of a dip here. So we're going to watch that injury and see if there's anything to it. He gets a nice little rest here over the next week, so probably nothing there. Top 90, though, over the last week, worth pointing out. Top 10 on the season for Jason Tatum, and a nice little, I guess, post-hype season for him. Sam Hauser has had a little top 125 week. That's going to do it. All right, you guys, long show. Thank you guys for sticking around. Wanted to cover all 30 teams. Tons of angles, tons of intel. Really appreciate you guys' support. Do all those things that I mentioned. Follow the shows, do the reviews, send us the tweets. Let us know what you want to see. Let us know what you want to see in our tools, especially after we release these new tools here in the coming weeks. We want to kind of build this to order. So let us know what you guys want to see, not just on the website, but on social, and follow all of those different accounts, especially the one over at Blue Sky, because we're noticing that there's a lot of good things happening over there. So we would like you guys to be a part of that party at Ethos Fantasy NBA. That's going to do it for us on Fantasy NBA today, presented by Bet Online, a Sports Ethos presentation. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, be well.